choosing the right SD card is both simple and kind of complicated. But first, you need to figure out what type of card you need. So there's a few basic ones that are pretty popular. Right here, we have the micro SD. So you can see it is super small, like the size of a fingernail. These are mostly used for action cams and drones, stuff like that. Next up, we got standard SD cards. These are probably the most widely popular and least expensive right now, but there's a few different options as far as speed goes, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And then last is CF Express. I think this is a newer technology. There's both A and B styles. As far as I can tell, the A style seems to be exclusive to Sony, and the style B seems to be for other brands and other makes. All SD cards will have a rating system, and that's what we're going to get into. There's a bunch of numbers on here. You can see there's this 10, there's a 3, SDXC2. All these ratings, these are kind of like legacy ratings. I'm not saying they're like totally irrelevant, but that's not what we're going to focus on. What we're going to focus on is the V number. So the only V30 card that I had was the micro SD card, which is why I brought it out. But there's V30, V60, and V90, which is the fastest that I've seen so far. V60 and V90 are what we're going to be diving into, and these are rated for burst read and write speeds, not necessarily sustainable recording. For higher sustainable recording speeds, that's where the CF Express would come in. Now, these are not only faster at reading and writing, but they actually usually are available in bigger sizes. And they also have a rating for sustainable recording. The Sony brands seem to be broken down into either an E series, which is what I'm using to record this on right now. As you can see on here, it says E. Their M series, and their fastest, as far as I can tell, seem to be the Gs. I like the Sony cards because I hope that because they're, I mean, supposedly built to Sony spec, that they will be more durable. But I also like the design on the back. So the G series have a ribless style to them, so there's nothing to like get caught or broken off. There are still some ribs on the M, but there's not as many. Standard SD cards, from what I've seen, have ribs between each of the interface areas. And on the CF Express, you can see there's no ribs on it. I'm not sure if any CF Express cards have ribs on the back, though. I've only had this one. It's about the same footprint, but it is twice as thick. But all these speeds, why do they matter? Well, that's what we're going to get into. So, why you might want a faster SD card is for to take advantage of your camera's capabilities. So if you're doing a bunch of high frame rate or resolution videos, you'll need a faster card. If you're doing a bunch of burst shots as far as photos, a faster card will help you clear your buffer sooner. But let's check it out in the camera and see what actually happens when you put a slower card in. So we'll put the V60 in and see if there's any negative drawbacks as far as what the camera is capable of. Okay. So in the settings, as far as the bit speed goes, that's actually what limits you. So to perform shooting with this setting, use a memory card higher than V90 or CF Express card. It's interesting that it says higher than. So let's see what happens if we put in a V90 card. And we'll go back into the menu. Okay, and so now it's letting us choose it. So although they say higher than, they actually mean as high as, which is a little bit weird. One thing I forgot to cover before was that the V stands for the video rating. So V30 is the starting point that I've seen. That's the bare minimum. And then V60 and V90. And so I put a standard SD card in with no video rating in it. And right here, you can see that after I formatted it, it tells you to use a minimum of a V30 card. So one thing that I think I didn't explain super clear before was that it's not so much the frame rate as it is the bit depth of the codec. So we can actually choose 120 frames a second on a V60, which is what says is the minimum for this camera. But see how the bit depth is still 200, and I guess it gives us a an option for 280. But with that, you can see that it does work. So we're recording at 4K 120p. So if you go to change the codec with a higher bit rate, it won't let you. So here you can see we're only at 60p. We're not even at 120. But because it's trying to record at 600 megabits, it yells at you. It tells you that you need a V90 card. Put in a V90 and see what happens. All right, so go back into it. And here we're at 60p. And it lets us select it. So it doesn't let you change it. This must be more of like a lossless. I don't think it's raw, but a way bigger file. And then you can see here that it is recording at 4K 60. So if you're still having trouble finding the correct SD card or CF Express card, what I'd recommend doing is just doing a quick Google search to pull up your device's user manual. So if you just go to a web browser, then what camera you have and SD card specs, you have the basic AI overview. But what I'd recommend doing is actually going to the manufacturer's website. And then here you can see what they recommend that you use. So for the FX30, you can use a CF Express Type A or SD card. And then they tell you what speeds. So once you know what you're trying to record at, they tell you what card you need. So it looks like you need a minimum of a V60. So I don't think that a V30 would have worked, except for possibly in 1080. And then you can see here that for a V90, you need that card or a CF Express to record at the 600 megabits per second. I appreciate everyone for watching. Thanks, it means a lot. And hopefully you found this somewhat educational, probably not entertaining, and I'll see you in the next one.